So I think we should start. Okay, so is there any doubt from the previous class or should we continue further?
I'm good.
Okay, so as we talked in last class about this multidimensional, which is the next version of SSES, not the next, but it is the earlier version, which means SSES came with this multidimensional and then this tabular. So the earlier version of this SSAS is multidimensional, and then we are having a new mode for that SSCF, that is tabular. So we completed this tabular thing, and now we will discuss. We will compare this tabular or with the multidimensional. Okay, so let's see how they are. Actually, there are no relationship between them, but yes, it is our choice to which model you want to go. Okay, so it depends on our requirement. So if it suits your requirement, then you will decide like which mode of your SSAS you want to go. Okay, so as you can see, uh, for tabular, why you should select tabular mode of SSAS. So suppose your developer or your users are familiar with Excel formula, so suggest them to use this tabular because this DAX function, DAX language which we use inside SSH tabular is very familiar with the Excel formula. So I think there are 80 number of functions which are exact to that Excel formula. Okay, but there are some more formula in this DAX. And the next point is like there are some reporting tools. Okay, so as I was also talking about this Power BI. Okay, so this Power View and Power Pivot uh, has a new name, and that we call as a Power BI. So Microsoft, I don't know what they did. They just combined this Power View and Power Pivot and created a new tool, which is called Power BI. Okay, so what these things are, which means these are the reporting tools. So if your end reporting environment is this like Power View, Power Pivot, or this SharePoint Excel services. So earlier this Power View and Power Pivot was inside Excel. In fact, this is inside Excel. So if you have an end reporting tool like that revolves around this Excel thing. Okay, so obviously if you are having this end reporting tool like these, so you should select the tabular. And the next point it is saying like you can connect to the multiple data source. Okay, so while we were creating the tabular model, so when we were importing the data, okay, so there were some couple of connectors to which you can connect. You can extract data from you can get data from text, Excel, SQL, some other sources. Okay, so there are multiple connectors are available in this SSAS tabular. There are in multidimensional also, but the limitation, there are limited connectors in multidimensional, but there are a wide range of connectors in tabular mode. And the next important point we consider for this tabular is it's about speed. So if you need extreme speed, which means you want very fast processing on your data, then you should go with this tabular. Why we get this high speed? Because whatever we do with our data, they are preloaded to our RAM memory, which means this storage point of this tabular mode is your RAM, that is your memory. Okay, so whenever you open your tabular queue, so what it does is it has some in-memory analytics engines behind this tabular. So it loads the whole data from queue to the memory so that it can speedily reply to the reporting tool. And the next point is about its compression. So this tabular has columnar data compression. Okay, so I don't want to go into that, but if in simple words, you can rate it like if this multidimensional has some 3x compression, then you can rate this tabular as a 10x compression. Okay, so it's just a reference, it is not a real time calculated value. But yes, if you are having data on disk size, suppose if you have data inside your SQL server table and that takes 10 MB. Okay, so if you import the same table inside this tabular, then it will take only 1 to 2 MB only. Okay, so there is high level of compression. And the next is like this development time is very less. So why actually we are comparing the good points of tabular route. And the next comes is multidimensional. Why we should go for this multidimensional? Yes, there is requirement of this multidimensional because this tabular cannot handle very large data, extremely large data. Okay, so for those options, if you have data in terabytes, which means if you have billions of rows, then you should select this multidimensional. Obviously, the data compression is low, but the data handling of this multidimensional is very big. And yes, if there are some complex calculation, the calculation means if you have some complex business points, then you can easily or you can have those kind of calculation inside this multidimensional. Obviously, you can have in calculation in tabular, but uh, creating complex calculation inside tabular is bit tough than this multidimensional. And yes, we talked about this many-to-many relationship. We cannot create relationship inside tabular mode with many-to-many relationship. But this is possible inside this multidimensional. We can create a relationship which holds this many-to-many relationship. Okay, so this can be done in tabular, but we have some way around, like we create some common unique column and then we create one-to-many and one-to-many. So there is a way around to create many-to-many relationship in the tabular, but this is easy to create in this multi-dimensional because we do not need to have any other way around, but we can directly create many-to-many relationship inside multi-dimensional. And obviously the next point is requires complex modeling. Obviously, if you have very big data, means you have some complex situation or you will have a very uh, complex business point. So for that, you will have so many kind of rules to model the data. Model the data means you for creating cube. Okay, so you people got any idea about what is tabular and what is multidimensional, and about its difference? What is the primary difference between this multidimensional and tabular?
Yes, but if it has these many advantages, why people would choose tabular then?
Because suppose we have ad hoc type of reporting, which means we do not, for small companies, they will not have very big data. Okay, so suppose if a company is 5 years old, okay, so that company will not have data in terabytes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you are going to this multi-dimensional, if you have, which means you will be having very big data. Of course, that whole storing and handling of data will require more infrastructure, or and if you need more infrastructure, then the costing will be very high. Okay, but if you have a very quick and easy business points, then you should go with this tabular.
Does it
Okay,
cost
so
if we go multi-dimensional?
the costing means like if you have very big data, okay, so in terabytes, obviously to hold that data you need some more space, and to store that that much of data, you need very good servers, and the configuration of that server should be very good. And and if you are going with this tabular, this does not require complex things. And the most important point is like development time for this tabular is very less. If you going with this multi-dimensional, then you will have to take a very good amount of time. You cannot easily create a tabular cube in 3 days, 4 days for a quick demo. But for if you are trying to create a whole solution in multi-dimension, then it will take more time. Okay, so in one word, you can say like tabular is for quick data analysis, and if you want to go with this uh, big data analysis, then you should go with this multi-dimensional.
Is it easy to switch between tabular to
No,
multidimensional?
once you have decided, then you cannot switch because there is no transition. If you change the server, so we will do that. If we change the mode of our analysis services, then the whole data will be scrapped, which means that the whole data will be deleted. You cannot have that data again. So if in starting itself, we have to decide like to which model we want to go.
Okay.
And obviously, earlier we created a Tableau model on our Tableau cube on our analysis servers. Now we will change that tabular mode to multi-dimensional. There is no direct method, but there is a way around for it. As you can see, when I will switch the mode for this, then the whole data will be cleaned off from this analysis server, as we are having this much of queue. Okay, so now I will change this mode, which means I want this tableau SSAS to be run in multi-dimensional, as the icon is saying like you are running the cube, this SSAS in tabular mode. So let's quickly do this. There is a file in our C drive that resides to this folder, the program files marker. So SQL server. You should not do this because you can try these things on your personal, but do not try it on your some production server or to your office environment. There is a configuration file. Okay, I will from that configuration file I will edit the mode. SQL server SSR SQL SS. So I need to configure this file. I'm just copying it to the desktop. So where is that file? Config. sorry, this MSBI. So here is the file. Open it with Notepad. So there is something deployment mode. Okay. So if you provide this as a 2, then 2 is for tabular mode and 0 is for multidimensional. Save it, control S, close it, again copy and then go back to that folder and replace this file, control V, replace file and destination. Before this I will try to take this file, I will take the backup of this file. Let's move it to this other folder. This is our backup and we edited this thing. So I will copy it again and go back to that too. Here we will replace with new file which we edited. Connect it. Connect it again. Now you can see here the icon has been changed and it is running in multidimensional mode. So the icon for multidimensional is something related with the square cube. Okay, so there is you can ignore this point, but I just wanted you to show like how we can change the mode. There is no direct UI from where you can change, but in this way, like you can edit the configuration file of that SSCS. Okay, so now we are good. Let's. So we have compared like what is tabular and multidimensional. We got some idea on these two modes, and now we will start with some work like creating first project on multidimensional. Obviously, in this cube also we will be having fact and dimension, but the method of creating cube is completely different. But the basic ideology, which means we will have some data. Obviously, to create a cube, you will have some input data, and how you will get that? There are some different things here. You will create data source and data source view. So for let's take an example. Let's take this first task, defining data source view within analysis service project. So in this we will try to create a basic project on SS yes multidimensional and we'll go through step by step. So I'm opening my Visual Studio. So when you select this analysis services, so earlier we were working on this tabular project. We created tabular project using this icon. All these three things are related with tabular. Okay, but these two are related with multidimensional. This second option shows like if you have already multidimensional cube as a source, then you can import data from that cube. But here we will create a new multidimensional cube and we will create it as a new project for it and rename it something. Click OK. So this is the first window which you will get. Obviously in this solution explorer, then in the right tab, this is still opening. So let's wait for 2 more seconds. Application successful. And now let's have a look here. So whenever you create a new project in multi-dimensional, you will have these things. These are the pre-created folders. So to have data, you will first create a data source, and from that data source, you will have data source view. So data source is nothing; it's just a connection to the data source. Okay, so here we will create some connection with the data source, and from that data source we will create views, which means obviously in taking for an example, suppose we have a AdventureWorks data warehouse. So we will just create a connection up to that database, which means we will just provide a server and database name, and we will create a new connection in this folder. And in data source view, we will have a selected list of tables from that AdventureWorks. Okay, and after that we will create queue and dimension. So let's go it quickly. For that, we created project. Now we will do these things. So the first requirement for this queue is first you need to create a connection to the source. So right click on the folder. Okay, you will have this new data source. So click on it. Now there will be a nice window here, and you can just go through it. It is not difficult. As we were having these connection earlier, you can have new also. So click new. Here we need to provide a local server, and from that we will be selecting our AdventureWorks. You can test the connection. Presents okay. Click OK. And now you'll have this list of data connectors, and select this. Click next. You can provide some username, like through which user the queue we will try to fetch the data from that source. So just provide the uh, admin or provide the credentials. So I will try mine. Finish. So it will just create this connection string. So the whatever we are doing in this data source folder is just we will create this connection string, and it will create a data source in our connection to the data source in this data source folder. Okay, so it's as you can see, its extension is some .ds, which means data source. Now let's create a data source view, which means we have so many tables into this database. Okay, so in data source view, we will select only required tables. So right click on it again and select new data source view. Into that, as we have created some data source, and now we are creating a data source view on that same data source. So you can have that existing thing. You can create new also, but we will use the existing data source which we created in this folder. Click next. Okay, so now it will list down the all tables from that database. So tables as well as the views. Now go to the fact internet sales. We'll try to make it big. Select the table and click this right arrow button, and now you will have this. So you can do this like add related tables. Now it will automatically find the related tables to this fact internet sales. Okay, so you can have this, but we don't want this table. So we can remove this by just selecting the left arrow. Select the table and click on the left, then it will again pull back to the source. Okay, so we are having sales territory, currency, product, date, customer, and promotion. Try to make it simple. One promotion, customer, currency, also I don't want. So we are having some fact table, and to that fact we have these dimensions, some geography location from the sales territory, and then the product description from this, then product, date, and customers. Click next. So we have selected these tables from that uh, data source, and from that data source we created a view on that data source, and the view will contain these table only. So click finish. Now you will have the data source view here, and you have all the and with their diagram. So up to now, is there any confusion, like we are just using the UI thing, nothing else? Any doubts up to now? You people
No.
are there?
Yeah.
Okay, so just watch it, because these are the primary things, which means we are just creating a new cube. Okay, we will do it again and again, but for first time you have to watch it because there is nothing to discuss on it. So just watch my steps. You can edit the relationships from here, double click on it, or just delete some dimensions, some, or you can list down the. So when you double click on the related arrow or the relationship line, then edit relationship window will open here. So as you can see, this fact internet sales. From fact internet sales, you selected the order date key, and that is connected to the date key of that dim date. In the same way, you can have this, but we know like how these tables are connected. And I want to remove these connections. So select it and press delete. I want only one relationship between these two tables. So in the same way, we are having some simple star schema. Okay, we are having only one fact, and others are the dimensions to it. Okay, so we are creating a simple star schema data source view. Okay, we haven't created a queue yet. So next, go to this queue. Again, right click on this folder, create new queue. Then it will reference this data source view. Click next. Use existing table, because we have already created a list of table in our this data source view. Here you have to take care, like you need to select only measures group, which means the table which contains the measure thing, means the countable things. So we know like this fact internet sales is a measure table, which means it will have the factual values that can be aggregated, on which we can apply some aggregation, which means applying aggregation means that table is related to the measure group. Okay, so we know like fact internet sales will have only uh, measurable data, and these other tables are the dimension, which means these table will have textual information. Okay, so here while this window, when you get this measure group, then you need to select only the fact table. Click next. From this fact internet sales, you have like these are the possible list of measures. Actually these are the list of columns, and to these columns the list of columns, it will treat as a measure, which means on to these columns it will apply aggregations like sum, min, max. Okay, Before that, you can unselect something like on key values you do not want to apply aggregation. Now click next. Now it will ask you about the dimension. So the other tables, other remaining table, it takes as a dimension. Okay, so if you are good with this, so you can select. But here you can see it is taking the fact internet sales as a dimension also. So we know like this table is related with the measures, so we will unselect it because we know this table is not a dimension. Click next. So now you will have a overview of all the things here. So you have created a measure group, and to that measure group, these are the aggregated or measurable columns or fields, and we have some dimension to this measures, and those are the dim date and customers. Click finish. So now we have created a queue. As you can see, we are on this queue file .cub, and we have this window here. Sorry, Control Z will not work. I edited something. Yes, now we are on this. So we are on this .cube file, and to this we have some measures. As you can see here, to this left pan, you have measures region here, and below it you have dimensions. Okay, and this is the diagram view of that cube. Obviously we are getting this diagram view from this data source, and you can see like to this dimension area, when you click on this plus icon, so to these attributes we are having only the key columns here, but we want other columns also. Like to the sales territory, there must be some country location columns are there, and in the same way you are having product details also. So by default it takes only the key columns when we create queue. So we need our next task is to go to this dimension folder and double click on anything, any dimension name, as you can have extensions. So these are the files. So double click on date dim. Now we are configuring this dimension, like from this dim date table what we want to have in our cube. Like we want only some of the columns, not all. So you can slide down. We need for basic thing, we need that fiscal year. So select it, hold it, and drag it to the right pane here, to the attributes region. And in the same way you can have this fiscal quarter, and there is some month, English month name, and some date value. Let's take this full data. So to this dimension, to this dim date, we are having these columns only, not the all columns from the source table. We are having these columns as a dimension value. And in the same way, simply go to this next folder, next dimension table, and drag the other things like country. We want country to be in our dimension thing, region also. That's it. And the same with customers. First name, last name, email address. You can have other things also, but it depends on your requirement, which fields you want to be in your queue. And now go to this last table. pick this color. Modeling in this description. So we just selecting. I'm just selecting some sample dimension column from this dim product, and now again come back to this cube. Now you will have all the columns as you when you will be in this cube file. So there is measures and this dimension region. So when you select this customers, now you will have attributes. So we selected these things to be as a dimension while we were editing this customer dimension. So whatever we added there, those will be listed here. So we added color, English description, and model. So now we have created a cube out of its all modeling part. So whatever we did, we did just to get these things. So now in our cube, you are having this fact internet sales as a measurable group, which means these are the list of columns on which you will apply some min, max, and all calculation, and how you will be bifurcating that data on and to those these measures you will bifurcate or that measures on these dimensions. Okay, so we have now created a quick cube. Okay, so we want to browse this cube, which means we want to test this cube. So there is an option again. We can analyze these things in Excel, but before that there is a tab here. When you will be on this cube, there are so many tabs here. Okay, so in last you will have this browser tab. Okay, so this error was expected because we changed the cube mode from tabular to multidimensional. So this Visual Studio is still thinking like that SSAS environment is running in tabular mode. So we need to save it and close it, and we will restart that SSAS server. Click on save all. So give me 2 minutes. I will just restart that server, and I will try it again. If it is nothing happening, so simply restart your whole system. So how to do that? Just go to that uh, configuration. Some SQL server. I think that configuration manager, there is a window from that SQL server. There is a configuration manager tool through which we can edit. Okay, so that uh, tool is corrupted in my machine, so there is a way around to it. Just go to the task manager, and from there just restart the analysis process. They have already stopped. So I have only one option here because I'm not getting that analysis server here. Okay, so in next class I will show you like how to browse this cube. okay, because I need to restart my system to apply the configuration change which we did for SSAS. Okay, so tomorrow we will see like how to browse this cube which we created in our Visual Studio. Okay, but we will continue like what are the other different things. So the next point is about deploying. So to deploy the things, again you need that analysis server, and this Visual Studio is not taking it as. Let's try it for one more time. I think it will not take that. Okay. So, but I know the error, so don't worry. In next class, I will show you like how to browse this queue. Okay. So we are doing nothing. We are just creating the same queue which we created in that tabular mode. There also we took all these tables. Okay. So here also when you go to this SSAS environment from that SQL, there will have an option of database and all those things which are similar to the tabular mode. But the difference is like here in this uh, multi-dimensional project, you will have so many options. There also we were having partition. There also we can have these KPIs. Okay, so the thing is same, but the working on the queue is different. The method to create and to work on it, these things are different. We can have calculation. We there in tabular mode we were having calculate field area. Okay, there we select to any cells and provide the some formula. So, but this multi-dimensional have so many options here. You can watch, you can see here like there are multi options are available, which means if you have multi option, then obviously you will need more time to develop. That was the main point. Like if you want a quick cube creation, which means if you have very tight time constraint, then you should go with that tabular. And obviously the next advantage of tabular is its data processing is very high. But the one of the big disadvantage of that tabular is that it cannot handle very big data. Okay, so if you have data in GBs in fact, then you should not go to that with that tabular. Okay, so why we recommend tabular? That tabular thing is for ad hoc reporting, which means if you want quick analysis on your data, then you should go with that. Or if you have very small data size, then you should go with that. But if you have very big, and obviously this multi-dimensional is for large organization, and this requires more infrastructure, like very big server and all those things.
Sanjay, I have two questions here.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you said, for the smaller organization, it will be easy to manage the tabular one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do they, I mean, in the future, obviously, their data will grow in size. So, for that reason, do they select this multidimensional?
No, scalability, we call that term as scalable. Then we cannot scale our multi-dimensional, sorry, that tabular. If those are the points we need to consider while we decide to which mode we want to go. So obviously the tabular is not recommended for those kind of situation. If you know like in future you will have very big data.
Uh,
Okay.
so, and one more thing. So, in the same organization, do they have like a cube with multidimensional and another cube with the tabular mode?
Yes, you can have. What we cannot have is like on a same server we cannot have two queue with two different modes. Okay, but in an organization, yes, you can have like if you have two servers, so try to make SSAS tabular on one server and multi-dimensional on another server. That's it. You can have those kind of situations.
Okay.
both modes on. Okay. Okay, so the next thing will be on defining dimension cube and reviewing a cube. Obviously, we will do those kind of work which we did for tabular, like analyzing the cube inside Excel. And obviously, the good thing we have in this is we do not need the Excel exactly. We can browse the cube inside this thing. Okay, but to browse this, we need to have a tabular mode running, but it is not detecting that tabular because we change it now. So we need to restart this analysis server. Then it will, then this Visual Studio will detect that as a multidimensional. Okay, as you can see here is an Excel button that when we click on it, then it will open the cube in Excel. Okay, so there are so many options. Obviously, why we are having these kind of options, because this SSAS multidimensional came in around 2006 with SQL Server 2005. Okay, and this tabular cube came in around 2010 with SQL Server 2012. Okay, so obviously this multidimensional is old. That's why we have so many options, because the Microsoft people has worked uh, on this cube, this multidimensional thing. And first, the tabular first came in Excel with the name of Power Pivot, and that became popular. So the Microsoft decided, like, yes, introduce this tabular mode to SQL Server. So there were some stories behind it, but no worries. If you want, like, to create a cubes out of some data warehouse. Suppose we have a data warehouse in our SQL Server, out of which we want to create a small cube on some data. Like we want to create a cube on data of HR, the data related to HR. Okay, so for those kind of cubes, like for subset of data, for those kind of work, we can have tabular. Okay, so for today, I don't think I need this thing. So to work on this browser, then only we will proceed. I don't want to switch to some next task, because it will create confusion when we switch to these things before we need to complete the second task. So in tomorrow's session, we will have this, like, browsing of queue and reviewing the queue. So sorry for today. We need to close this class. Okay. So for tomorrow we will have this whole working. Okay. So is there any doubts? Then we can discuss on that.
I thought these two are like creation of that cube is a little bit similar, but I found that this has like so many steps to connect and
Yes.
everything.
Obviously there are. That's why the tabular cube is easy to create. Okay.
Yeah,
But
that
again, in the end, we are creating the same thing. We are having data source, then we are having data source view, then we are having cube, and after that we are defining dimensions.
yeah.
Okay, but when we are in cube, in a tabular board, there is only one button, like one step, get data. Okay, so there is steps, you can say, like, to get to the cube you have two steps, two pre steps, and to the dimension also you need to provide the, when you double click on it, you need to provide, like, which column you want to be in the cube. So you need to drag the columns from this name date to the attributes of that dimension. Then only it will be available to your cube. Okay. In the same way, there are some more folders like defining structures, roles. Roles is similar to that, like providing securities. and there are some assemblies and miscellaneous. I think this miscellaneous folder contains the documentation part. Like if you have some PDF file related which describes this queue, then you can have those for those documents to this miscellaneous folder. Okay. Obviously, in the end, we will have like right click on the project and deploy. And to deploy, go to this properties. There you will have option like deployment, and to that you provide the same server name. So there are similarities also, but the steps are there are too many steps in this multi-dimensional. Okay,
Yeah.
in the end we are actually creating a cube. Okay, so obviously we will have one fact table and others table as a dimension, but the method of creation is different. Okay, that's why we are having two modes for this SSAS. So yes, we will cover these things. Okay, so from toward what my today's aim was to make you clear like what are the primary differences between these two, and to give a preview of this multi-dimensional, how to create a project and what are the different UI things. Is it okay? Like you
Yeah.
got some overview of it?
Yeah.
How to create a basic project on multi-dimensional mode.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay, so obviously in the next class we will be doing the things again and again. Okay, so what are the different tasks we have here is like advanced attributes. So there are around 9 tasks, and to that there are some subset of it. So we will discuss on those, but obviously we cannot switch directly to this 5 or something to the next task because it requires the previous knowledge. Okay, so we will proceed one step by step. Okay, so I think today we completed this first task, like creating a simple project and creating some data source and views. Okay, so the first task is the primary one and it is not difficult.
Okay.
Okay then, so see you tomorrow.
Okay.
And yes, at the same time I will be there. And yes, I will be not available at not coming Friday. Okay, sorry, I will be not available on 12th. No, see, I thought this coming Friday is 12th. Okay, so no issues. I will be not available on Friday of the next week. Okay, so, but there are too many sessions in between. And one more thing, Sundar, are you there?
Yes, Sanjay.
Sundar. Yes, I talked to the training people. There for SSIS part, we will have session on Saturday, Sunday. Okay,
Okay.
so we will try to cover the things on Saturday, Sunday. So you will have a call and we will notify you about all those things. Okay.
Uh, Let me know before, like 1 hour before, or like the
Yes, yes,
day
yes,
before.
yes, yes. You will get a call information call before. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
So
Sanjay.
no issues. So see you tomorrow, and yes, we will continue this uh, task. Okay. So from tomorrow we will start from the second task and to the further.
Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay then. Bye bye.
Bye.